My name is Helen Whitford, and I have spent 30 years teaching fourth graders how to read maps, solve fractions, and breathe through their panic during math tests. I thought that equipped me for motherhood. It didn't. Nothing prepares you for the moment your grown son stops calling, stops texting, and quietly slips out of your life as if he were erasing chalk from a classroom board. For 8 months, that was my reality. Then, on a chilly Saturday morning in early October, my phone rang while I was grading vocabulary quizzes at the kitchen table. I recognized the number before I heard the voice. "Mom," he said, soft and uncertain. "It's me, Logan." I set down my red pen. "Are you all right?" There was a pause. I heard him swallow. "Yeah. I will be." "Mom, can we talk in person? I was thinking maybe we could go out on the water, like we used to. Fishing. The last time we went was when he was 15 and still believed that catching a bass together counted as a perfect Saturday. I agreed. 12 hours later, I found myself walking down Linden Point Marina, the salt in the air biting at my cheeks, while the sun glowed behind a thin curtain of fog. Logan was already at the dock, leaning against a weathered blue boat, with its paint peeling like old wallpaper. He looked older than his 28 years, gaunt around the jaw, shadows under his eyes, shoulders tight. But he smiled when he saw me, and for a moment, he was my boy again. "Hey, Mom." He lifted a tackle box in one hand, ready to show me up like always. I laughed and nudged his arm. "If you stop pretending you're too grown to wear a life jacket, maybe I will." He rolled his eyes, but the corner of his mouth twitched upward. "You never change." "And you do," I said. "Too fast." That earned me silence, but not the heavy, angry kind we had before. More like a silence with questions hiding inside it. I stepped onto the boat. It rocked sharply and I grabbed the railing. "Easy," Logan said, reaching out to steady me. "Watch the step." I raised an eyebrow. "Since when do you worry about safety?" "Since always," he muttered. That's funny, because I distinctly remember a certain teenager who tried to light a firecracker in his bedroom when I was at parent-teacher conferences. He groaned. "Mom, please don't tell that story to every living person. You gave me no choice. It's a classic." We shared a small, honest laugh. For the first time in months, I let myself believe maybe this trip really was about healing. Maybe the distance between us wasn't permanent. Maybe the boy who once asked me to tie his shoes still needed me. As the engine rumbled to life, I glanced down the dock and noticed a familiar figure. Mark Ellison, the retired Coast Guard captain who volunteered at my school's Safety Day events, stood beside his small rescue boat polishing a brass railing. He looked up at the sound of our engine, raised 2 fingers in a casual wave, then returned to his work. I hadn't spoken to him much beyond polite small talk, but he had that gentle steadiness some men carry like a second heartbeat. Logan followed my gaze. "You know him?" "Sort of," I said. "He used to teach water safety. The kids loved his stories." "Huh." Logan said, his voice unreadable. "Good for him." He said nothing more, and soon the dock, the town, and even the lighthouse slipped into a thin gray outline behind us. Once we were far out, Logan cut the engine. The silence on open water is different. It settles in your bones. It makes space for truths you've avoided. He handed me a fishing rod. "Thought you'd take the good one." I inspected it. "Logan, this reel is rusted." "Okay, the second best one," he corrected. "Are you planning to impress me because so far you're barely passing?" He snorted. "I miss this." I looked at him carefully. I did too. We cast our lines. The water was calm enough that the ripples made soft circles around the bait. The sky was a pale silver, the kind that tells you winter is coming sooner than you think. Logan exhaled in a way that sounded almost human again. "Mom, I'm sorry." The words were so sudden I almost dropped my rod. For what I asked quietly. For all of it, he said. For disappearing. For shutting you out. For the things I said. For not being the son you deserved. I turned to face him fully. "You're still my son. That never changed." He blinked rapidly. I don't know how to fix what I broke. You start by talking, I said, by letting someone in. He shook his head. I don't want you to see what's inside my life now. Logan, I said gently, you're talking to a woman who once convinced an entire fourth-grade class that multiplying fractions is fun. I've seen darkness before. He gave a watery laugh. Not like mine. I didn't push. I've learned that pushing breaks more young men than it heals. The boat rocked lightly as Logan reached into the tackle box and promptly knocked it straight over. Hooks, bobbers, and bait spilled everywhere. Great, he grumbled, kneeling to gather them. Perfect. Exactly what I needed. I crouched beside him. The boat tilted. Careful. If we both lean the same way, we'll end up swimming. Trust me, he muttered. That won't happen. It was meant as a joke, but it hit my chest with a strange heaviness I didn't understand yet. As I picked up a small silver lure, Logan's hand brushed mine. He flinched as if burned. Mom, he whispered. I wish things were different. I wish I wasn't the way I am. You're not broken, I said softly. He swallowed hard. His throat bobbed. Then he looked at me full of something I couldn't decipher, something that looked too much like finality. Mom, he said again, today, I want to make things right. I want to fix everything I ruined. A breeze swept across the deck. The hairs on my arms rose. Logan, I said slowly, what do you mean by fix? He stared out at the water instead of answering. His jaw was tight, his knuckles white around the railing. Then he turned toward me with a trembling smile that shook something deep inside me. It means I'm sorry, he said, for all of it, and I hope one day you can forgive me. My heart kicked against my ribs. A chill ran down my back that had nothing to do with the wind. This was not just an apology. This was a goodbye dressed as one. I opened my mouth to speak to stop the strange dread rising inside me to pull my son back from whatever edge he was standing on in his mind. But the moment slipped. The rod in my hands tugged sharply. A fish had taken the bait. I turned instinctively, and behind me, Logan whispered one sentence so low the ocean almost swallowed it. Mom, whatever happens next, I love you. When I looked back at him, truly looked, I finally understood. Something was very, very wrong. And this fishing trip was not the simple reunion I thought it was. It was the beginning of something far darker. The ocean was calm. Too calm. That was the first thing I realized as the line pulled taut in my hands. The second was that Logan wasn't celebrating the way he used to. No grin, no niece catch mom, just a blank stare fixed on the horizon as if something out there was calling him. Logan, I said gently, the fish isn't going to wait. Nothing. I tugged the rod again, trying to break his trance. Hey, you're scaring me a little. That snapped him back. He blinked hard as if surfacing from underwater. Sorry, he murmured. I spaced out. I studied him. His hands were shaking. Not a little tremble, but a full-body tremor like someone trying to hold back a storm inside their chest. Sweat dotted his forehead despite the cold wind. Logan, I said in a low voice, are you having a panic attack? He let out a bitter laugh. I wish it was just that. My stomach tightened. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. He reached for the rod, helping me reel in the fish, but even then his movements were stiff, jittery. His eyes kept darting toward our wake, toward the shoreline far behind us, a thin gray line barely visible now. You keep looking back, I said, expecting someone. He flinched. I don't know, he muttered. I feel like I'm out of time. Before I could question him further, he forced a laugh, too loud, too sharp. Remember when I used to trip over everything on this boat, he said. I was such a mess. He tried to smile, but it shook as badly as his hands. I smiled back, trying to keep things steady. Oh, I remember. You nearly knocked me overboard once because you thought a jellyfish was a sea monster. That thing was huge, he protested weakly. It was the size of a pancake. But it had vibes. Despite everything, I chuckled. Those fleeting moments comedy stitched into panic were how we survived as mother and son. Humor was the glue holding us together, but today the cracks were widening. The fish finally broke the surface, a small striped base wriggling in the air. I unhooked it carefully, lowering it back into the water. "See, I said the ocean still remembers me." Logan swallowed. "The ocean doesn't forget anything." His voice dropped into something darker, something cold enough to make the hairs on my arms stand. He stepped back, running a hand through his hair. "Mom, I'm so tired. I'm tired of waking up every day feeling like I'm drowning." "You're not drowning," I said firmly. "You're overwhelmed, and we can get you help." "You don't know what I've done," he whispered. I moved toward him. "Then tell me." "I can't." The wind picked up, rocking the boat. A gull screeched overhead, circling us like it sensed danger. Logan squeezed his eyes shut and leaned against the railing. "Mom, I failed at everything. At work, at life, at being your son, and I'm dragging you down with me." "That's not true," I said, "and you don't get to decide my worth." He shook his head violently. "You don't understand. They're coming for me." He bit his lip. Hard enough to draw a bead of blood. "I shouldn't have brought you. I thought I could fix it. Fix us. Fix me. But I can't." The panic in his voice sliced through me. My teacher instincts blasted to life. "Breathe, slow, ground him, keep him talking." "Logan, look at me," I said softly. "Whatever's happening, we face it together." He opened his eyes, and for a moment, just one, he looked like my little boy again. Scared, lost, overwhelmed. Then something shifted. His gaze drifted downward to a small plastic box that had slid across the deck when the waves rocked us. The box of bait. It tipped over and spilled hooks and lead sinkers scattering. "Great," I muttered, bending to gather them. "Your organization skills are still." And that's when it happened. Not a moment of rage, not a fight, not a scream. Just a single fractured instant where choice and fear collided. Logan moved behind me, fast, sharp, decisive. I felt the shadow of him before the shove came. His voice cracked like dry wood. "I'm sorry, Mom." His hands hit my back. I pitched forward. The world tilted. The deck disappeared. Cold water slammed into me like a fist to the chest. I gasped and swallowed ocean instead of air. For a second, all I saw were bubbles and light. The surface above me stretched like a trembling sheet of silver. My lungs seized, my arms flailed. The shock froze my body. Then instinct took over. Kick, push up, reach the surface. When I broke through the water, I coughed violently. The boat was already drifting away. "Logan!" I screamed, choking. "Logan, stop!" He stood at the stern, hands gripping the railing so tight his knuckles were white. His face was twisted, not with anger, not with malice, but with something far worse. Despair. Pure, unfiltered despair. "Mom," he said, voice shaking across the water, "I can't do this anymore. I can't let them use you to get to me." "What are you talking about?" I sputtered. "Swim back, throw me a rope." He took one step back, then another. "Please forgive me," he whispered. "I love you." And then he turned, not turning away from me, turning the boat. He grabbed the wheel, twisted it, and the motor roared to life. The wake exploded into white foam as he sped away, leaving me thrashing in the cold, merciless water. The ocean swallowed his silhouette. My heart pounded like a drum against my ribs. Every breath burned. My limbs stiffened as the cold sank deeper. But I wasn't done. Not today. Not here. Not like this. I forced my head above the waves, kicking harder, fighting the pull of panic clawing at my throat. And then faint, distant a sound. A horn. A boat horn. A small vessel cutting across the horizon, heading toward me, toward the storm I had just fallen into. The ocean has a way of reducing you to your truest form. No titles, no roles, no mother, no teacher, no survivor of a difficult life. Just a body trying not to drown. Salt water slapped my face again and again. The cold was so intense it stopped feeling cold. It was numbness, emptiness, a silence inside the bones. Kick Helen. The voice in my mind was sharp, steady. Kick the way you did when your son fell into the lake at 8. You saved him. Now save yourself. I kicked, feet churning through water that felt thick as mud, arms slicing outward, weak and shaking. Logan's boat was nothing but a shrinking white scar on the horizon, lifted by the waves, tilting, then turning away. He was leaving me, my own son. I tried to shout his name, but my voice broke apart in the wind. My throat burned from salt and from something deeper, something no water could wash away. A sudden wave slammed into me and drove me under. The world turned black and green. Bubbles rushed past my ears. The pressure clamped down on my skull. Taptrong. Focus, I commanded myself. In through the mouth, out through the nose. Like you told the kids when they panicked. The teacher voice I had used for decades became the rope I clung to. 1 breath, 1 count. 1, 2, 3. Each time I surfaced, the sky was there gray and endless. A sheet of metal stretched across the world. I turned in circles searching for anything that wasn't water. Nothing. No boats, no people. Only me and the ocean. The ocean does not yell at you the way people do. It does not accuse. It does not ask why your own child pushed you. It simply drags. First gently, then relentlessly. Cold crawled into my bones. My heart began to pound less like a drum and more like a warning. My fingers stiffened. My legs trembled. Miss Helen. I do not know how to swim. A small voice echoed in my mind. Joey, one of my students from years ago. He had stood at the edge of the school pool, shaking so hard his teeth clicked. They laugh at me, he whispered. Let them laugh, I had told him. Fear is allowed. Giving up is not. He had taken my hand. Now I had no hand to take, only the ocean. I inhaled a mouthful of air that tasted like metal, closed my eyes for a moment, and in that sliver of darkness memories rushed in. Logan at 4, face smeared with ice cream. Logan at 13 clinging to me during the divorce hearing. Logan at 19 promising he would find his own path. Logan at 28 pushing me off a boat. Another wave hit me. My back screamed with pain. My head went under again. Salt water flooded my mouth. My lungs seized. This is it, I thought. This is how it ends. A woman who taught emotional control to children dying because her own child could not control his. It would have been darkly funny if I were not drowning. My body began shutting down. Fingers numb, legs heavy as stone. The urge to close my eyes and sink whispered like a lullaby. Let go and rest. It only hurts when you fight. But then another image rose behind my eyes. Not Logan, my classroom. 20 small feet swinging above the floor, math worksheets with cartoon fish, crooked handwriting on the chalkboard, I can do hard things. I was the one who made them write that sentence every day. I can do hard things. I could not die here. Not like this. Not after a lifetime spent telling children they could overcome fear. Push. 10 more seconds, I ordered myself. I counted. 1, 2, 3. Each number was an arm stroke. 4, 5, 6. My back ached with a searing burn. 7, 8, 9. I slipped underwater again. My chest spasmed. Panic clawed at my throat. 10. When I surfaced, I heard it. A motor. Deep. Heavy. Old. Not Logan's engine. I turned blinking against salt and wind. The world blurred. My eyes stung. But then a shape emerged. A small wooden boat with peeling white paint. A faded name on the side, Ellie Mae. It was heading toward me. Here I tried to shout. It came out as a rasp. I raised an arm, then dropped it from exhaustion. The engine grew louder. The boat cut through the water, sending gulls scattering. I saw someone at the bow, a tall silhouette slightly hunched wearing a worn baseball cap. Hey! A man's voice boomed across the waves. There is someone in the water. The hum of the engine surrounded me as the boat slowed. The waves pushed me away, then pulled me back. I fought to stay afloat. "Grab this." A rope smacked the water a few feet from me. I reached, missed. My fingers scraped against wet fibers. "Hold on, I will get it closer." The rope came again, hitting my shoulder. I grabbed it. My grip tightened with everything I had left. Got it. The rope jerked. My shoulders screamed. I wanted to let go, but my fingers refused to obey. "Pull her in." Mark, a voice crackled through a radio. "Mark." His name was Mark. The boat tilted as the man leaned over the side. His face came into view, weathered, tanned, etched with lines carved by sun and disappointment. Eyes gray-blue, sharp but gentle. "Can you take my hand?" he shouted. I let go of the rope with one hand, a gamble with my life. Our fingers touched. His hand was rough and warm, impossibly warm in the cold water. "I have you," he said. "Do not let go." I did not know if he pulled me up with muscle or pure determination. One moment I was drowning. The next I slammed against the hull and was hauled onto the deck. I collapsed on the wet wood, coughing, gasping. Salt water streamed from my mouth. Air burned my lungs, but it was air. "Breathe," he said, kneeling beside me. His voice was steady. "In, out. You are safe now." I forced my eyes open. The sky was still gray, but no longer cruel. A face leaned over me, half-shadowed hair streaked with gray and damp with sea spray. "My name is Mark Ellison," he said, still catching his breath. "Former rescue diver. Looks like today is my unexpected comeback." I tried to speak. Only a whisper came. "My son," I said. He pushed me. Mark's face darkened. Not with judgment, not with shock. With something older. Something sad. "All right," he said softly. "We will deal with that later. First we get you to shore. The ocean took almost everything from you today. It is not taking the rest." As the boat turned toward the distant coastline, I lay trembling on the deck. The sea does not forget, but today it spared me, and sent a man named Mark Ellison to pull me back into the world. The cabin of the Ellie Mae smelled faintly of cedar old rope and something warm that reminded me of cinnamon. I sat wrapped in a thick gray blanket while my soaked hair dripped onto the wooden floorboards. My body shivered in uneven waves, part cold, part shock. The engine hummed beneath my feet, a steady heartbeat that anchored me back into the world. Mark Ellison moved around the small cabin with the restless energy of someone who had spent a lifetime scanning horizons for danger. He was a tall man with strong hands and the kind of presence that filled a room without effort. He kept glancing at me as if afraid I might vanish between blinks. He opened a metal cabinet and rummaged through supplies with the focus of a man defusing a bomb. "You drink tea?" he asked. I nodded. "Anything warm?" He pulled out a dented kettle, tapped it, then shook his head. "This thing has 2 settings," he muttered. "Barely warm or lava." I let out an unexpected laugh that startled even me. "Then I will take barely warm." He paused, looked over his shoulder, and smiled. "It is good to hear you laugh, even if it is a terrified laugh." He filled the kettle with bottled water, placed it on a small stove, and turned to me again. "You should lie back," he said, gesturing to a cushioned bench. "You swallowed a lot of seawater. Your body is in shock." "My body will survive," I said quietly. "It is the rest I am worried about." His expression softened. Not pity. Something closer to recognition. He leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. "You said your son pushed you." It was not a question. I looked down at my trembling hands. The cabin light flickered across my fingertips, turning them pale gold. The truth felt too heavy, too raw. But I had already said the words once. They were out in the world now. Yes, I answered. He pushed me. Mark blew out a slow breath and rubbed the back of his neck. "I have heard many things working rescue," he said. "People falling off boats, people jumping off boats, people being thrown by waves. But a story like yours, I cannot ignore that." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small radio. I need to report it, he said. Not to get him arrested. Not yet. But someone needs to know you are alive. And someone needs to know you did not fall by accident. A rush of fear tightened my chest. No, I said quickly. They will come for him. Logan is not a bad person. He is lost. He is drowning too in his own way. Mark lowered the radio. You want to protect him? Yes, and you want the truth to stay quiet. For now. He studied me for a long moment, the boat rocking gently between us. All right, he said finally. Then we do this your way. But I am still calling someone. He raised the radio and clicked the button. Savannah Reyes Coast Guard Unit 7, he said into the static. The name hit me like a warm gust of wind. Savannah, I whispered. Mark glanced at me, surprised. You know her? Yes. She was my student. 10 years ago. Static crackled, then a calm but sharp voice filled the cabin. Unit 7 Reyes speaking. Go ahead. Savannah, Mark said I have a situation that needs quiet handling. I retrieved a woman from open water, middle-aged, hypothermic, conscious. She claims she was pushed. There was a beat of silence. Then Savannah's voice came low and urgent. Put her on the line. Mark handed me the radio. My hand shook as I lifted it. Ms. Helen. Her voice softened instantly. Is that you? Yes, I whispered. It is me. Stay where you are. I am coming to the harbor. Do not leave with anyone else. Do not let anyone talk you out of giving a statement. I am not making a statement, I said firmly. Not yet. I want to talk, but on my terms. Another pause. Then Savannah asked a simple question. Are you safe? I looked at Mark. He stood beside me, steady as a lighthouse. Yes, I answered. I am safe. Then I will meet you at Pier 5. Savannah said, 30 minutes. The radio clicked off. Mark poured the hot water into a ceramic mug and set it gently in my hands. The warmth seeped slowly through my frozen fingers. You have people who care about you, he said. That is more than most are given. I took a sip. The tea was weak and oddly floral, but it was warm. And right now, warm was a miracle. Thank you, I said quietly, for pulling me out of that water. Mark shook his head. You saved yourself first. I only finished the job. I held the cup tighter. My mind flashed again to the moment Logan pushed me, to the hollow look in his eyes and the shaking in his hands. He was scared, I murmured. My son. I saw it. Something broke inside him. Mark pulled up a small wooden chair and sat across from me. Fear makes people do desperate things, he said, but pushing your own mother into the ocean. That is more than fear. Something else is going on. I swallowed hard. There were signs, I admitted. Things I brushed off, sleepless nights, strange phone calls, his weight dropping. He kept saying he was a disappointment. Mark tapped his fingers on his knee. You think someone was threatening him? Yes, I whispered. And I think he believed the only way to escape was to remove me. Mark's voice lowered. What exactly were you in the way of? The question opened a wound I had been avoiding for months. Bills, debt collectors, dark conversations overheard when Logan thought I was asleep. I do not know, I said. But I need to find out, even if it hurts. Mark nodded slowly. You will not do it alone. Something in his tone made me look up sharply. His eyes held no judgment, no hesitation, just quiet certainty. Before I could respond, the boat bumped against a pier. Mark stood and extended his hand. Let me help you off the boat. I took it. His grip was firm and warm. The harbor lights glowed through the cabin window, soft and golden. The world had not ended on the ocean. It had simply shifted, pulled me toward the next chapter of a story I never meant to enter. Mark guided me outside. The air smelled like salt and diesel. Our footsteps echoed on the wooden planks. At the end of the pier stood a woman in Coast Guard uniform, dark hair, pulled tight eyes, sharp and alert. Savannah. She walked toward me with urgency and relief, fighting for space on her face. Miss Helen, she said, pulling me into a careful embrace. You are alive. Yes, I whispered. thanks to him. Savannah glanced at Mark, then back at me. "Let us get somewhere private," she said. "We need to talk." I felt the weight of the ocean begin to slide off my shoulders. Not gone, but no longer suffocating. A new storm was coming, one made of truth and consequences, and I was finally painfully ready to face it. The small Coast Guard office beside Pier 5 looked nothing like the dramatic command centers people imagined from movies. No giant screens, no frantic radio chatter, just a cramped room with a humming fluorescent light, a metal desk, and the faint smell of coffee that had been reheated too many times. Savannah Reyes locked the door behind us. Her movements were sharp, controlled, professional. But the moment she sat across from me, her expression shifted into something warmer, something almost daughter-like. "Miss Helen," she said with a steady breath, "I need you to tell me what really happened out there." I wrapped the blanket tighter around my shoulders. The cold from the ocean had woven itself into my bones, but it was not the only thing making me shiver. "I told you on the phone," I murmured. I slipped. Savannah leaned forward. "With respect, you are a terrible liar." Mark, sitting quietly near the corner, let out a soft snort. "She is honest," he said, "just stubborn." Savannah shot him a quick look before returning to me. "You came out of the ocean with bruises on your forearms, salt cuts on your back, and panic in your voice. The sea did not put those bruises there. Someone held you. Someone pushed you." I forced my eyes down to the metal floor. The room felt suddenly too small, too bright. "Savannah," I said quietly, "I am protecting my son." Her tone did not soften, but her eyes did. "Then let me protect both of you," she said. The words were so sincere that I felt my throat tighten. Savannah turned on a small recorder but didn't press start. She let it sit on the table like an unspoken choice. "This is not an official interview," she said. "This is you talking to someone who still remembers how you stayed after school to help me learn English vocabulary. I kept failing. I owe you more than you know. So tell me the truth and I will decide how to handle it." I closed my eyes. Images slammed through my mind, Logan's shaking hand on the boat rail, his cracked voice whispering he was sorry. The moment my world tipped backward into cold, roaring water. When I opened my eyes again, I felt older, heavier. "My son pushed me," I said softly. "He pushed me because he thought he had no way out." Savannah sat back, absorbing every word without a flinch. "Tell me why," she said. "I do not know all of it yet," I admitted. "But someone has been pressuring him. I have heard pieces, phone calls at midnight, threats disguised as warnings. He is drowning in something he doesn't know how to face." Savannah's jaw tightened. "Debt?" she asked. "Yes." "Gambling?" I hesitated. That word felt too sharp, too exposed. "I think so," I said finally. Savannah rubbed her temples. "That explains the erratic behavior, desperation, shame, irrational decisions." She exhaled slowly. "But pushing your own mother overboard, that is not just desperation. That is someone being cornered." She stood abruptly and crossed the room to a small cabinet. She pulled out a manila folder and laid it on the table. "This," she said, "is the Highway Patrol report from earlier today. A fisherman called about a boat matching Logan's description traveling erratically near the 3-mile mark." My breath stalled. "Erratically," I whispered. Savannah nodded. "And that is not the worst part." She opened the folder. Inside were printed screenshots of GPS logs and satellite timestamps. This is standard for any vessel that passes under communication towers. Even if someone deletes their GPS manually, there is still digital residue. My stomach clenched. Residue, Savannah pointed to the numbers. "These logs show that your son's boat stopped for 4 minutes at the exact coordinates where Mark found you. Then it made a sharp turn back toward shore at full throttle." Mark shifted in his chair, eyebrows lifting. 4 minutes, he repeated. "That is long enough to watch someone struggle in the water." A cold weight settled in my chest. Savannah's voice softened again. "You can still choose to tell the world he made a mistake. But the evidence tells a different story, and I cannot ignore it. I felt tears gathering hot against my cold skin. "He is my son," I whispered. "My only son." "I know," Savannah said gently, "but you are also a mother who almost died today." The room fell quiet. I wiped my eyes slowly. I do not want him imprisoned. I want him helped. Savannah nodded thoughtfully. There are mental health diversion programs, financial rehabilitation programs. If I can show that he cooperated and that he is not a danger to anyone, I can push for those instead of charges. I stared at her, stunned. "You would do that? You saved my life once," she said. "You kept me from dropping out. You kept me from giving up. Let me return the favor." Her voice had the fire of someone who had seen too much pain in her job, too many families destroyed by silence. Then her expression sharpened again. "But I need to ask you something serious." I braced myself. "Do you believe your son wants to hurt you again?" I shook my head without hesitation. "No, Logan is not violent. He is lost. Whatever happened today, it was not who he is. It was fear, pure fear." Savannah nodded, relieved. "Then here is what I am going to do," she said, pulling out a notepad. "I will keep this off the record for now. I will mark your rescue as an accident. But I am opening a private file under mental health concern. That gives me legal space to intervene if needed." Mark whistled quietly. "That is bending the rules," "It is," Savannah said, "but it keeps the door open for help instead of punishment." I breathed out slowly, overwhelmed with gratitude. But the calm did not last. A knock rapped sharply on the office door. 3 knocks. Pause. 2 more. Savannah stiffened. "That is not one of ours," she said, hand moving to her holster. Mark rose from his chair in a smooth, protective motion. "Stay behind me," he said, stepping closer. My pulse hammered. Something about those knocks felt wrong, precise, intentional. Savannah approached the door with practiced caution. "Who is it?" she called. Silence. She exchanged a look with Mark. Then a voice slipped through the door. Low, male, strained. "I am looking for Logan Carter's mother." My blood froze. Savannah's eyes sharpened. "How do you know she is here?" she demanded. No answer. A shadow shifted under the doorframe. Mark stepped closer, shoulders squared. "Back away from the door," Savannah ordered. Still silence. Then footsteps, slow, heavy, moving away from us. Savannah unlocked the door and swung it open with one swift motion. No one stood outside. But at the far end of the pier, a black SUV pulled away without headlights. Savannah shut the door again, locking it tight. "This is bigger than a gambling debt," she said, her voice flat with certainty. Mark turned toward me. "Do you know who that could be?" I shook my head, terrified. "No," I whispered. "But whatever it is, it followed him home." Savannah pulled her jacket tight and holstered her radio. "Then we need to move. Right now. Before they get to your son first." And suddenly, the ocean felt like the safest part of my day. Night settled over Harborview like a heavy blanket, the kind that muffles every sound except the ones you don't want to hear. The ocean outside my window kept crashing against the rocks, slow and rhythmic, as if unaware that my world had cracked open. Savannah insisted on driving me home. Mark followed behind us in his old rust-flecked truck, his way of guarding the rear. The headlights cut through the fog, but everything beyond that small circle of light felt unpredictable, waiting. When we pulled into my driveway, Savannah's hand shot out to stop me from opening the door. "Do not go in alone," she said. Her voice carried the kind of authority that made even grown men pause. Mark stepped beside her, his silhouette solid against the dim porch light. "I'll check it," he said. "No," Savannah replied. "We check it together." They moved toward my house with the quiet discipline of people who had seen danger before. I stood on the walkway, hugging my coat around me, feeling the cold creep in again, not from the night, but from the knowledge that someone had asked for Logan's mother at the pier. And then I saw him, a shadow behind the living room curtain, a slow pacing shape, shoulders slumped, hands on his head, My son. Savannah, I whispered. He's inside. She glanced back at me, nodded once, and motioned for Mark to stay outside as backup. Then she pushed open my front door with controlled precision. "Logan Carter," she called out. "It's Savannah Reyes Coast Guard. Announce yourself." There was a beat of silence, and then a voice, broken, hoarse, exhausted. "I'm here." Logan stepped into view, his face pale, his clothes damp with sweat, his breath uneven. His eyes searched for me instantly, and when he saw me, his legs buckled. "Mom." He fell to his knees so fast the sound echoed through the room. He covered his face with both hands, shame pouring off him like heat. "You're alive," he choked. I thought you were God, Mom. I thought you were gone." I stepped inside slowly, carefully, one breath at a time. "Logan," I said softly. He bent forward, his forehead touching the floor. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mom. I swear I didn't mean I wasn't thinking. I just wanted silence. I wanted the pressure to stop." He sobbed once, a sharp sound that pierced something deep inside me. Savannah closed the door behind us and stood by it, arms folded, watching with the eyes of both a protector and a witness. "Get up," I said gently. He didn't move. "Logan, look at me." He finally lifted his head. His eyes were bloodshot, terrified, and filled with a small and aching hope. "I didn't deserve for you to survive," he whispered. "You didn't deserve to drown in whatever pushed you to that moment," I replied. A long silence stretched between us. It felt like years of misunderstanding, resentment, and unspoken pain finally had a place to land. "Tell me," I said. "All of it." Logan dragged himself onto the couch, shaking. His fingers knotted together so tightly his knuckles turned white. "It started 8 months ago," he said. "The company I worked for downsized. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to disappoint you again. I took out short-term loans to stay afloat. I thought I could pay them fast once I found something else." He laughed bitterly. "Except I didn't find anything. And the loans, they weren't from a bank." Savannah and I shared a tense glance. "Who?" she asked. Logan swallowed hard. "2 men. They call themselves collectors. They said they had investors who expected weekly payments. At first it was small, then it wasn't." He pressed a hand to his face. "They followed me. They showed up at work interviews, at my apartment. I didn't sleep. I didn't think. I just kept sinking." He looked at me again, guilt cutting into every word. "And today, when we were on the boat, my phone buzzed. A message from them. They said if I didn't pay by midnight, they'd settle the debt another way, meaning you." Savannah cursed under her breath. "They threatened your mother." "That's why I panicked," he whispered. "I felt trapped. I told myself that if I disappeared, if something happened to me, maybe they'd leave you alone." Tears streamed down his face. But I couldn't jump. I couldn't do it. And something in my head snapped. I don't know how. I don't know why. I just pushed. Mark stepped inside quietly, his presence grounding the room, and Logan broke apart all over again. "You should hate me," he whispered. "I hate me." "No," I said gently. "You are sick, not cruel. You are drowning, not evil." Savannah stepped forward. "I need you to understand something." "Logan," she said, "what you did is serious, but your intent matters. Your mental state matters. And the fact that you came home instead of running matters." Logan nodded weakly. "I'll turn myself in," he said. "I don't want to hide." My heart twisted. This was the boy I raised, buried under fear, but still there. "I'm not handing you over to a prison cell," Savannah said firmly. "But I am placing you into a mandatory mental health diversion program, starting tonight. It's intensive, it's supervised, and it keeps you from being prosecuted unless you refuse treatment." Logan blinked, stunned. I can do that," he whispered. "And one more thing," Savannah added. "Those men looking for you, they're not loan sharks. They're part of an organized enforcement ring. Now that they know your mother survived, they may escalate." A cold shiver ran through me. Mark stepped closer, protective. They were at the pier, he said. They asked for Helen. Savannah wasn't surprised. They'll come again, but we won't let them get close. She turned to Logan. You need to pack a bag. You're not staying here tonight. Logan hesitated. Am I under arrest? No, she said. You're under protection. The word landed differently. He exhaled a mixture of relief and exhaustion. Savannah stepped aside so he could pass, but before he reached the hallway, he stopped and looked at me. Mom, he said quietly. Why did you come home instead of calling the police on me? I walked toward him and touched his cheek. Because someone pushed you long before you pushed me. His breath shook. He closed his eyes and leaned into my hand like a child seeking warmth. And for the first time since the ocean swallowed me whole, I felt something returning, something fragile, something necessary. Hope. The house felt too small for what was happening inside it, too quiet, too fragile. Logan went down the hallway to pack his things, while Savannah stood near the door, speaking into her radio in rapid, clipped phrases. Mark hovered near the kitchen counter, arms crossed, jaw-set eyes tracking every shadow outside my window. I stood in the middle of my living room, the sound of the ocean faint in the distance. A part of me still felt like I was in the water, floating weightless, unsure of what direction was up. Savannah ended her call and turned to me. Helen, she said quietly, I need to prepare you. When we move Logan, there's a chance someone may already be watching the house. The words fell heavy. Do they know where I live? I asked. If they were following him, yes, she replied. But don't panic. The Coast Guard patrol has eyes on the neighborhood. We'll get him out safely. Mark stepped forward. He's not the only one they want, he said. At the pier, they asked for you, Helen, not him. Savannah froze. What exactly did they say, she asked. Mark hesitated. His voice dropped lower. One of the men said, the mother owes us more than the son does. A chill slid down my spine, colder than the seawater I'd swallowed hours earlier. Savannah swore under her breath. That means they're not just threatening him, she said. They're escalating. Before I could reply, there was movement behind us. Logan stepped back into the room holding a small duffel bag, shoulders slumped, but his eyes clearer than they had been in months. I'm ready, he said. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled. Savannah approached him carefully. Logan, she said before we go, I need to ask you something difficult. I need the truth. All of it. He nodded. She took a breath. Who exactly threatened you? Did you ever get their names? Logan shifted, rubbing the back of his neck. Shame flickered across his face again. They never told me names, he said. They said names made things traceable. Mark scoffed softly. Savannah didn't react. What did they look like, she asked. Logan closed his eyes, trying to recall. One tall guy shaved head tattoo on his left forearm, something like a compass. The other guy, shorter, stocky beard, always wore a black fishing cap. Savannah nodded slowly. That matches a pair we've had complaints about. They extort men who lost work in the docks and marinas. They pick people drowning, financially isolate them, then squeeze. She turned to me. They weren't after you personally. They wanted leverage. They wanted him to fear losing you. Logan's breath hitched. So they threatened her because of me. Because you love her, Savannah said gently, and they count on that. The room fell still. Logan sank onto the couch, head in his hands again. I thought I could handle it, he whispered. I thought if I just made one big payment, they'd back off. I was wrong. Savannah softened. You should have come to me sooner. He laughed bitterly. Why? So I could admit I failed at everything. My job, my finances, my own life, I stepped toward him. You didn't fail, I said quietly. You got lost, and nobody taught you how to ask for directions. Tears filled his eyes again. I didn't want to burden you, he said. You raised me alone. You always had to be strong. I didn't want to be another weight. Being your mother was never a weight, I said, but hiding your pain, that's what nearly killed us both. Savannah cleared her throat not out of impatience, but out of necessity. We need to move him soon, she said. But before that, Helen, I need to ask you something. I stiffened. Ask. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. When Logan pushed you, do you believe it was an intentional act of harm or a mental break? The question sliced through me. I pictured the moment again, his shaking hands, his tear-filled eyes, the way he froze after I hit the water, the horror on his face, the regret in his voice. It wasn't malicious, I said firmly. It was a moment of desperation, a panic reaction. Then, after a breath, my son is sick, not violent. Savannah nodded. That's what I needed to hear. But before she could say more, Mark suddenly lifted a hand. Quiet, he whispered. We stopped, listened. There a car engine, slow, creeping, rolling to a near stop outside. Savannah's body went rigid. Mark reached instinctively for the pocket knife clipped to his belt. I peeked through the curtain. A dark sedan idled by the curb, headlights off. Two silhouettes sat inside. One leaned forward, staring straight at the house. Savannah stepped back from the window. They found him, she murmured. And they think he's here. My heartbeat thundered so loudly it drowned out the ocean. What do we do? I whispered. Savannah pulled out her radio. This is Officer Reyes requesting immediate backup at Harborview Lane. Possible loan shark enforcement present. Static. Then a response. Backup en route. ETA 8 minutes. 8 minutes. An eternity. Logan stood shaking. They'll hurt you, he said. They'll hurt all of you. I should go outside. I should end this. Narmber Savannah's voice sliced sharp. You go outside, we lose control. They'll take you, and then none of us can help you. Mark stepped between Logan and the door. You're not a bargaining chip, he said. Not tonight. Logan's breath trembled. I caused all of this. No, I said. Your silence did, and silence ends tonight. Savannah quickly scanned the room. Lights off, she commanded. Mark flipped the switches. Darkness settled around us. The only light came from the street lamps. Savannah positioned herself at the door, hand hovering near her taser. Mark stood near the hallway, shielding Logan with his body. I stayed beside my son, gripping his arm tightly. Outside, the car door opened. A boot hit the pavement. Another door, another step. Two figures walked toward my porch, slow, heavy, measured. One knocked. 3 loud, deliberate hits. Savannah didn't move. Mrs. Carter, a voice called from outside. Deep, cold, too calm. We know you're awake. Logan tensed. Don't answer, Savannah whispered. The man continued. Your son owes us a conversation. Mark leaned closer to Logan. Breathe. Don't move. The second man spoke, his voice sharp as a hook. Open the door, ma'am, or this gets messy. Savannah lifted her radio again. Where is my backup? She hissed. 2 minutes, came the reply. 2 minutes. The men stepped onto my porch. Their shadows stretched across my window. Savannah tightened her grip on her taser. Mark shifted his stance, ready. Logan shook harder than before, and then a siren. Distant at first, growing fast. The men froze. Another siren joined the first, then a third. Flashing lights turned the street blue and white. Savannah exhaled slowly. They're here. Outside, the men sprinted back to the car. Tires screeched against asphalt. The sedan shot forward, but a patrol SUV blocked the road. Another boxed them in. Within seconds, officers surrounded the vehicle. Savannah finally lowered her shoulders. It's over, she said. But for me, watching the scene from my darkened window, heart-pounding arms wrapped around my son, it didn't feel over. It felt like the beginning of something new, something harder, something necessary. The truth had finally crawled into the light, and none of us would be the same again. The morning after the arrests, the world felt quieter than it should have. Not peaceful, not calm, just quiet in the way a storm leaves the air heavy after tearing through a coastline. The sun rose over the water with a faded orange glow, as if even the sky was exhausted. Logan sat at my kitchen table, shoulders hunched, hands wrapped around a mug of untouched coffee. He looked like a man who had come back from the edge of a cliff but wasn't sure how to step away from it. I moved around the kitchen slowly. My muscles still ached from the night in the water, but inside, something more delicate hurt. A soft, bruised part of me that loved my son and feared him at the same time. "Did you sleep at all?" I asked. "No," he said. His voice was flat. "Too much in my head." I sat across from him. "We start small," I said. "One step at a time." He swallowed hard. "Do you really think I can come back from this?" "Yes," I said, "because you came back home." That was the first step. A soft knock came at the door. Logan tensed immediately, but I placed a hand over his. "It's all right." Mark stood outside carrying a brown paper bag and wearing the same faded navy jacket he always wore. His beard looked a little rougher than usual, and his eyes carried a tired concern that made my chest tighten. "Morning," he said. I brought breakfast. I stepped aside to let him in. The moment he saw Logan, he gave a small nod. "Glad you're here," Mark said. "Glad you're breathing." Logan let out an embarrassed breath. "Thanks for everything. Last night." Mark shrugged. "People deserve help when they're falling apart. Nobody gets through life without taking turns being the one who needs saving." He set the bag on the counter and began unpacking 3 sandwiches. "They're from the Dockside Cafe," he said. "Don't judge. They look terrible, but taste good." Logan cracked the faintest smile. It was the first one I'd seen on him in months. We ate in a soft, grateful silence. Halfway through the meal, Savannah walked in. Uniform, crisp eyes, alert voice, gentle. "Morning," she greeted us. "I spoke to the department psychologist. We're setting up an evaluation for Logan this afternoon." Logan stiffened. "Am I being arrested?" "No," Savannah said. "We're channeling this through a mental health safety order. You'll undergo evaluation therapy and a supervised plan. If you cooperate fully, we can keep this from becoming a criminal charge." He looked down. "And if I don't cooperate," Savannah's tone sharpened, "then you will be charged." The room went still. Logan swallowed and nodded. "I'll cooperate." Savannah exhaled in relief. "Good. After the evaluation, you'll need a part-time job, something routine to build stability. I can help with that." Mark raised a hand. "The seafood shop at the pier needs someone in the mornings," he said. "Light work, organizing crates, restocking, keeping inventory. If you're up for it." Logan blinked at him. "You'd do that." "For me?" Mark leaned back in his chair. "I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it because good people make terrible choices when they're drowning. You're trying to fix it. That counts." A long silence stretched between them. Then Logan nodded. "I want to try," he said. "I really do." Savannah smiled. "Then that's the beginning." She excused herself to make a few calls, and Mark stayed to help me clean up. Logan disappeared into the yard to get some air. When Mark and I were alone, he spoke quietly. "You're holding a lot inside," he observed. "I'm fine," I said automatically. He stared at me, not buying it. "You almost died. You were threatened. You're carrying his guilt and your fear at the same time. No one is fine after that." I swallowed hard. "Being a mother doesn't stop," I whispered, "even when you're hurt." He nodded, eyes softening. "You don't have to carry all of this alone." There was something grounding in the way he said it, something warm, steady, a kind of gentleness that made me feel seen. I turned away before the emotion could spill over. "I'm thinking of moving," I said. "Something small near the beach. A quieter life." Mark raised a brow. "That sounds peaceful." "It's time I build something for myself, not just for him," I said. "Something that feels like mine." "Then let me help," he said. "I know this town better than anyone. I can help you find a place." I looked at him. Really looked. The lines around his eyes, the weathered strength of someone who had lived through storms, the kindness that wasn't loud but constant. I felt something settle inside me. "Thank you," I said quietly. He nodded once, then went to check on Logan. The next few days moved like a slow tide. Logan began his evaluation. He attended therapy. He went to the seafood shop every morning with Mark coming home smelling like salt water and fish, exhausted but calmer. He apologized often, sometimes too often, but each apology sounded less like fear and more like genuine remorse. And I began to reshape my own life. I took on tutoring work with kids from the Peer Community Center. We met in small groups sitting around a folding table with chipped paint and pencils that rolled across the surface every time the wind picked up. Their laughter filled a part of me that had felt hollow since the fall from the boat, a part that needed innocence, simplicity, life. One evening, as I packed up lesson materials, one of the children's mothers approached me. "You're Miss Helen, right?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "My daughter loves your class. Thank you for doing this." Something in her sincerity touched me. I nodded. "It helps me too," I said. When I stepped outside, Mark was waiting by his pickup truck, leaning against the side with 2 steaming paper cups. "Chamomile," he said. "You look like you had a long day." I took the cup. "You didn't have to come." "I know," he said. Still came. There was a quiet pause. The sun dipped low, casting orange light across the water. The air smelled like salt and grilled fish from the food stalls. For the first time in a long time, I felt safe. Mark glanced at me. "You're strong, Helen," he said. "Not the loud kind, the kind that bends but doesn't break." I looked at him and the corners of my mouth lifted. "Maybe that's what the ocean tried to teach me," I said. "When it almost took me." "It didn't take you," he replied. "It returned you." The words sank deep. Behind us, Logan walked toward the pier, wiping sweat from his forehead, his steps steadier than they had been in years. He caught sight of us and smiled. A real smile. One that reached his eyes. I felt my heart swell. The road back wasn't easy. It wasn't perfect. But it was real. And for the first time since the dark water swallowed me whole, I believed we might all find our way to shore again. The pier was always busiest on Saturday afternoons. Fishermen hauling in nets, tourists buying cold drinks, teenagers racing bicycles dangerously close to the edge. It was loud, chaotic, alive. But that day, as the sun climbed high and the heat shimmered off the water, something quiet and significant was happening beneath all the noise. Logan was sweeping the wooden walkway outside the seafood shop. His face was flushed from the sun, his shirt damp from the work, but he moved with purpose. Small purpose, maybe, but purpose all the same. Mark stood a few feet away, reorganizing crates of mussels. "You're getting faster," Mark teased. "Another week and I'll hire you full-time." Logan gave a crooked smile. I thought I was already working full-time. I said hire, not tolerate. Big difference. They both laughed softly. A small tentative kind of laughter, healing laughter. I watched from the bench at the edge of the pier, a thermos of tea beside me. The breeze tugged at my hair. Seagulls swooped overhead, screeching like old women gossiping in church pews. I had not realized how deeply I needed to see Logan like this, working, trying, present. Then somewhere behind me, a child let out a scream. A real scream. Sharp, terrified. The kind that freezes every muscle. I shot up from the bench. A little boy, maybe 8, had been running with an ice cream cone. He tripped, slid, and skidded off the slick edge of the pier. His small body disappeared into the gap between the dock and the fishing boats. People shouted. Someone screamed for help. A woman's voice broke with panic. "My son. Please somebody help him." The water below churned dark and unforgiving. I turned toward the seafood shop. Logan had dropped his broom. He was already running. "Logan, wait!" Mark yelled. But Logan didn't stop. He sprinted full speed down the pier, dodging crates and fishermen, sandaled tourists and fishing lines. The crowd parted around him. He reached the spot where the boy had fallen and threw himself onto his stomach, reaching down, straining, searching through the gap. The tide surged. The boy's head bobbed up once, then vanished under the pier. Logan didn't hesitate. He jumped. The splash was so loud it echoed against the boats. The mother shrieked. People rushed to the railing. I felt my breath rip from my lungs. Mark bolted forward, stopping just short of diving in after him. "Come on, Logan," he muttered through clenched teeth. "Find him." Seconds passed. They felt like hours. The water swirled. Then Logan surfaced, gasping, one arm locked around the boy's tiny chest. "I've got him," Logan choked out. Cheers erupted around us, but the moment was not victorious. It was raw, desperate. Mark grabbed a rope ladder from one of the boats and threw it down. "Here," he shouted. "Climb." Logan pushed the boy upward first. A fisherman reached down and pulled the child onto the dock. The boy coughed violently, water streaming from his mouth, but he was breathing. People clapped their hands to their faces in relief. Then Logan reached the ladder. He climbed slowly, exhausted, shaking. Mark grabbed him under the arms and hauled him the rest of the way. Logan collapsed onto the wooden pier board's chest, heaving, eyes closed, water pouring from his clothes. I knelt beside him, brushing the wet hair from his forehead. "Logan," I whispered. "Look at me." His eyes opened. "Is the kid okay?" I nodded through tears. "He's safe. Thanks to you." He let out a shaky laugh and covered his face with both hands. "I didn't think," he said. "I just moved." "That's what real courage is," I said. "Doing the right thing before your fear catches up." The mother of the rescued boy stumbled toward him, falling to her knees. "Thank you," she sobbed. "Thank you for saving my baby." Logan tried to sit up, but his arms trembled. "I'm sorry he scared you," Logan said. "Kids run fast." She grabbed his hand, squeezing it tightly. "You saved his life," she said. "You don't apologize to me." A hush fell over the crowd as Savannah arrived, still in uniform, eyes scanning the scene. Someone had called emergency services, and she immediately spotted Logan, soaked through, trembling but alive. She covered her mouth with one hand. "You jumped after him," she said. Logan nodded weakly. "You should have seen him," Mark added. He didn't hesitate. Savannah crouched beside Logan and shook her head in disbelief. "There are reports from witnesses. Everyone saw it. And the mother is giving an official statement." Logan tensed, fearing judgment, fearing legal consequences. But Savannah placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "This matters," she said. "Your actions today matter. They show effort, responsibility, instinct to protect. This will go into your file. And it changes things." I could see Logan's throat tighten. His eyes reddened. "But it doesn't erase what I did," he whispered. "Pushing my own mother." "No," Savannah said softly. "But it proves who you are trying to become now." Her voice softened even further. "And the law recognizes rehabilitation. So do I." I felt a tear slide down my cheek. Mark stood behind us, arms crossed, eyes shining with quiet pride. The little boy's mother kept repeating "thank you" like a prayer. People around us clapped. Some filmed. Some simply stared, witnessing a broken young man begin to stitch himself back together. Later, when the ambulance arrived and confirmed the boy was stable, Logan sat beside me on the bench where I had been minutes earlier. He stared out at the waves. "I don't deserve to feel good about this," he murmured. "It isn't about deserving," I said. "It's about choosing who you want to be from this day forward." He swallowed. "Does this change anything for you, Mom? About how you see me?" I turned to him. "Everything you do changes how I see you," I said. "But this reminded me of the boy you were before the fear took over. The boy who used to rescue birds with broken wings. The boy who always ran towards someone crying on the playground." Logan's breath hitched. I thought that version of me was gone. "No," I whispered. "He was drowning. Today you pulled him out of the water, too." His shoulders shook once. Then he leaned into me like he hadn't done since he was a child. I wrapped my arms around him and felt the sun warm both our backs. For the first time since that terrible day on the boat, I felt something I had been afraid to hope for. Redemption. Not dramatic, not miraculous, just real. born from a split-second choice to save someone else. Sometimes a soul begins healing in the same place it first broke. Today, the ocean that nearly took my life gave my son a second chance at his. I returned to the shoreline at sunrise, the same place where everything had fallen apart and where everything had begun again. The surf was gentle this time. No violent waves, no storm clouds gathering on the horizon. Just a calm ocean breathing in and out like a sleeping giant, finally at peace. Savannah walked beside me, her hands tucked into the sleeves of her cardigan. She looked lighter, freer, like someone who had survived the truth and refused to carry its weight any longer. The morning air smelled of salt and warm sand as we followed the curve of the beach. The world was quiet in a way that felt earned. "Do you think he'll come?" she asked softly. I nodded. "He will." And he did. Zeke appeared at the far end of the shore, walking slowly each step, careful as if approaching a place full of memories he wasn't sure he deserved. He stopped a few feet from us, eyes lowered, shoulders weighed down with something deeper than guilt. "Dad," he said, voice low, breaking on the edges. "Thank you for not giving up on me." I studied him carefully. He looked older, not in years, but in understanding, in humility, in the painful rebirth that only truth can force on a man. "Zeke, I said you came back. That's what matters." He wiped his face with the back of his hand, an instinctive gesture he used to do as a child, and suddenly all I saw was the boy I used to carry on my shoulders, the boy who thought I was invincible. "I didn't know how to face what happened," he said, "or how to face myself. I kept thinking, if I ignored it long enough, it would disappear." Savannah stepped toward him, and for a heartbeat the wind felt suspended between them. "It didn't disappear," she said gently. "But you didn't run this time. That's enough for today." He nodded, eyes wet. Then he looked at me. "Dad, you said the sea doesn't forget. I know that now. But maybe it forgives." I let out a slow breath, the kind that shakes you from the inside. It forgives the ones who face the tide, I told him, not the ones who hide from it. Zeke lowered his head, not in shame this time, but in acceptance. We walked together along the shoreline, 3 silhouettes in the young morning light. No secrets between us now, no lies, just the quiet, unfamiliar peace that comes after surviving the worst version of yourself. At the end of the beach, Savannah stopped and turned to me. "I think I'm ready," she said, for what I asked. "To go back home," she replied, "but not the house, not the town. I mean the feeling of home." She looked at her brother. "With you." Zeke's throat tightened. "If you'll let me try." "I will," she said. "We rebuild from here." The tide washed over our feet, cool and steady, as if blessing the beginning of something new. The sun peeked over the horizon, gilding the edge of the ocean with gold. I watched the light travel across the water until it reached us warm and gentle. For the first time in months, I felt something I thought I had lost forever. Hope. I placed a hand on each of their shoulders. "You two have a long road ahead," I said. "Healing isn't quick or easy, but it's possible." Zeke exhaled shakily. "Will you walk it with us?" I smiled, a real one this time, not the kind held together by strength or fear. I already am. We stood there letting the sunrise wash over us, letting the past drift back into the waves where it belonged. Not forgotten, not erased, but transformed into something that no longer controlled us. Savannah linked her arm through mine. Zeke mirrored her on the other side. A small family, a broken one, a healing one. And as we walked away from the shoreline toward a life rebuilt with truth, instead of denial, I felt the quiet certainty of a new beginning. Not the kind that arrives with a dramatic moment, but the kind that grows in the gentle space where forgiveness meets courage, where love meets accountability, where a father, a daughter, and a son choose to return to each other. The sea didn't forget, but neither did it take us under. We rose with it, and we would rise again.